A pleasant morning to each and everyone. For today, we will be discussing the philosophies of education. So this topic has 7 philosophies, and I am the first presenter, and I will only be discussing the 2 philosophies of education, the constructivism and the essentialism. Then the following philosophies will be discussed or further be elaborated by my group mates. So talking about this philosophies of education, so it is really very important to understand how philosophy and education are interrelated. Because, diba, kita, in order to become the most effective teacher we can be or we aspire to be, we must understand these different beliefs because this different beliefs or these different philosophies, because these actually are the philosophies or thoughts in education. So as we go on, or the discussion will be able to identify the different classrooms, different students, and different teachers, because these philosophies of education will serve as the philosophies of educational background. So we will be able to explore the various philosophical views that influences the teaching profession. So the first philosophy, and the slide 1, we can see the constructivism. So in the constructivism, this philosophy is very learner-centered. So when we say learner-centered, more of the kanang gaka-learn sa students is from his or her kanang stock knowledge, or kung unsa na iyang na-learn before, gina-kuan lang ni teacher, gina-assist ni teacher, ginapagawa sa teacher more ang idea sa usa ka estudyante based sa iyahang past nga mga learners. It can also be nga kanang kung naay past nga learners si student nga kanang so, kung na-pass nga learning si student, pwede po na i-assist ni teacher kung kanang ginadugangan niya, di ba? Kung ginadugangan ni teacher ang kanang learning ni kanang learner, so ang iyahang kuan pwede po nga i-unlearn si teacher. Pwede na nga kanang gusto i-unlearn si teacher to assist gyud sa estudyante to develop more about sa kanang estudyante. So why teach? So constructivists seeks to develop intrinsically motivated and independent learners adequately equipped with learning skills for them to be able to construct knowledge and make meaning of them. So as what I have mentioned earlier, so ang ginakuan gud sa constructivist is iyahag yung gina-develop, di ba? More on gud siya sa kanang development sa kung unsa nay kanang naabitaw sa estudyante. So ginahimo niyang independent ang usa ka learner to mahimo para pud nga kanang mahimo siyang equip with learning skills. Then kanang mo ganito nga kanang nga base sa iyahang kanang stock ng mga knowledge about baka sa mga experiences and the past discussions or the past teacher nga iyahang na-encounter. So mahimo nga kanang ma-add more ni teacher, so ni constructivist. So sa slide 2, what to teach. So the learners are taught how to learn. So kanang ang base ang kwan gid ani focus gid ani ginatudloan gid ang mga estudyante how to learn more, or focus ni siya sa kanbitang unsay mga learning strategies para mahimo pag yung more equipped ang usa ka estudyante. So they are taught learning processes and skills such as searching. So pare sa kanang ginabuhat sa uban nga mga teachers. So mostly nagid ni siya sa kanbitang high school or kanang bakahang elementary, di ba? Drawing inference, then posing questions out of the information provided. So though some of the tertiary nga mga education pod naaman pod gihapon ni ang kaning ingani bitaw constructivist. So this is gyud na include din siya sa kaning philosophy sa constructivism. So kuan ni siya more ginabuhat po ni sa mga constructivist para di ba ma-develop ang learning processes and skills sa mga estudyante. So kanang kuan ba kaha ginapa critic, ginapa evaluate sa ni constructivist. So all of this mo ni gina-teach ni constructivist to be able nga ang iyang estudyante matudluan og unsaon to learn more. So mo na kanang focus gyud. Then so slide 3, how to teach. So in the constructivist classroom, the teacher provides students with data or experiences that allows them to hypothesize, predict, manipulate objects, pose questions, research, investigate, imagine, and invent. So siguro we have been into this type of classroom, no, constructivist classroom nga ginapa sa atong teacher, ginapa ka ng imagine ta, ginapa invent ta og something. So this is a pod kanang strategy to make the learner nga mahimo siyang more interested in learning. So kay di ba kung ginahatagan siya mga data or experiences that allows them to hypothesize, di ba, to predict. So some of the learners will really be kanang more mahimo silang maganahan sila, more on makuan sila kanang how do you call this, kanang makuan sila ba, magka-interest sila sa mao nga subject. So the constructivist classroom is interactive, so it promotes di ba, exchange of ideas among learners and between teachers and learners. So talking about this one, kay ato namang na elaborate, no, kung gaon sa ni dinhi sa constructivist classroom. So syempre, nagyan ni ang interaction kay more on man siya kanang ginapalihok sa teacher si learner or ginapalihok sa teacher ang estudyante, ginapa-think niya, ginapa-hypothesize niya, ginapa-predict niya. So, syempre, sa pag-express of thoughts, ang gagamiton gyud ani is through interaction by the teacher and the learner. So, in this constructivist classroom, this is kanang paagi pod sa constructivist to teach. So there is a slide 4. The teacher's role is to facilitate this process. So ang kanigid nga process magamit gyud ang teacher ani kay yahamang gina-assist bitaw ang estudyante kay their minds are full of ideas waiting to be midwife by the teacher with his or her skillful facilitating skills. So di ba ginademand ani nga kanang philosophy is ang teacher gyud ang yahang skillful facilitating skills. So makuan ginato siya no nga skillful facilitating skills kay kung ingani ang imuhang classroom or kung ingani bitaw niya ang teacher is kanang dili siya kanang he or she is not qualified with this very skillful and facilitating skills. So mahimo gini siya nga kanang dili mahimo constructivist ang classroom. Okay, kuan man ang interactive man ang mga estudyante, so dagan sila full of ideas, dagan sila ganang gusto i-voice out, i-express dito sa teachers, and kung ang teacher dili siya maka-facilitate aning tanan, so the constructivist classroom dili na siya mahimo constructivist nga classroom kay ang estudyante dili man dili kaayo sila kaatiman. Siguro we can still call it a constructivist classroom kay ang mga students ani sila pero kung magkulang ang kanang pagka-facilitate, so mahimong ma-feel gid siya. So this philosophy, this is the first philosophy, the constructivism. So the essentialism, this is essentialism. So why teach? For learners to acquire basic knowledge. So din sa kaning essentialism, kung dito sa constructivism more on the learner, kanang daghan og kanang gina-express bitaw ang mga learners about sa kung unsa ilahang na-learn. Murag ko siya din sa essentialism. I can't say dili pud ko maingon nga 360 degrees nga kanang lahi gyud, but dinhi sa essentialism is ang demand dinhi is more on sa teacher, more on unsay i-teach ni teacher, unsay kuan ni teacher, kanang ipang tudlo ni teacher, ing ana ang dinhi sa essentialism kay dinhi ginakuan ni teacher nga naanagi ka ng bitaw kanang ang estudyante nagi siya kapadulngan or kanang naana siya daan ba kanang bitaw, how do we nana siya kanang daan destined nga mahitabo bitaw sa iyaha o ing ana. So ang mga teachers din hiya, they for learners to acquire basic knowledge, so they transmit the traditional moral values and intellectual knowledge that students need to become model citizens. So kani pod nga kanang essentialism, no? So essentialist classroom, so we can still foresee it sa kanang, ay it's not foresee, makita na to siya ba kanang kaniadto bitaw, di ba? Daghan kay sa especially sa mga elementary nga mga levels, di ba, na mga ani nga mga types of kanang teachers, di ba, nga kanang mahimo nga ang ilahang ginakuan gyud, gina-teach nila ang mga basic knowledge gyud sa kanang kwan din, ginatudlo nila para pud ma-acquire na sa usa ka estudyante aron nga mahimo niyang kwan ba foundation bitaw for more growth dayon in the future. So what to teach? Ang gina-teach din is the traditional approach or back to basic approach that emphasizes the basic skills or the fundamental 4 R's. So when we say the fundamental 4 R's, di ba, the reading, the writing, the arithmetic, and the right conduct. So mo ni ang kanang ginapang teach din sa essentialist nga classroom nga kaning basic yun, the traditional approach. So kung kuan ni ato ni siyang i-visualize more, it can be said nga si essentialist ga focus siya sa kanang kuan module ba ka or kanang bitong book gyud iha gyud nang gina-focusan bitaw, gina-focusan niya nga mahurot ba ka niya discuss or kanang mahurot gud niya og tudlo ba sa estudyante for future use, or kung para pod nga kanang naanay basic knowledge na ng estudyante para more in the future he would be able to be kanang dali ra maka comprehend ang student tungod kay naagian niya ang basic. So the reading, writing, and arithmetic and the right conduct is one kon magini siya mo ni siya ang traditional approach. So unsa pa gyud ang gina-teach ni essentialist. So the 4 R's are needed for the students to acquire higher or more complex skills needed in preparation for adult life. So as what I have mentioned earlier, gina-teach ning 4 R's or the traditional approach para pod magamit sa estudyante kay need ni siya to acquire more complex skills needed in preparation for adult life. So essentially programs are academically rigorous and curriculum centered. So curriculum centered gini si essentialist. Kung unsa ang kanang gusto nga kanang ikuan bitaw sa kanang curriculum or mahuman sa estudyante, he or she or the essentialist is not into kanang unsaon bitaw pag comprehend or kanang unsay mga learning styles pud ba, kundi iyaha gyud is ang makatudlo gyud sa estudyante sa kung unsay angay niya nga makatunan. Then how to teach. So essentialist teachers emphasizes mastery of subject matter. So teacher-centered, everything comes from the teachers. So dinhi, di ba, as what I've mentioned earlier nga, dinhi sa essentialist, everything comes from the teacher gyud. So si essentialist gusto niya nga ma-master gyud ang kanang subject matter. So I can cite an example of this. Di ba sa una sa kanang elementary days, ang atoang mga teachers kanang ginapa-memorize tag multiplication table, di ba? Pila man ng 1 times 1. Nga di ba ginapa-memorize ta ana sa atong mga teachers. So para maka-learn more ang usa ka estudyante. So di ba ginapabalik-balik pag anita sa una dapat ma-master nimo, then sometimes si teacher ginapakabuhat ta or ginapa-memorize ta og mga poems, then ba ginapa-memorize ta ana para pud makanang ginapakuan pag yun ginapabalik-balik o sahay ginatag-isa-isa din sa front to master the subject matter. So motoy pwede na tumasite nga example of this philosophy. So teachers are the fountains of knowledge. So sa ilaha gyud gikantanan, di ba? Ga rely ang estudyante very heavily sa kanang sa teacher. So rely heavily on the use of prescribed textbooks. So as what I've mentioned earlier nga ginakuan gyud ni teacher kanang unsa bitaw ang kanang sa textbook nga mahurot gyud niya tudlo. Then mo din nga ang methods nga gagamitin ni teacher is the drill method, lecture method, memorization, and discipline. So as what I've mentioned, sa ani nga kanang philosophy mo gini ang essentialist more on gid sila sa kanang ga-lecture sila, gatudlo sila, because they want that the students nga nagyud sila makatunan or na ma-instill nga knowledge din sa ilahang tagsa-tagsa ka minds. So muna yung mga focuses. So that's it for the 2 philosophies of education.
Next is about progressivism by John Dewey. Learning by doing. Dito naman is kabaliktaran ng essentialism and perennialism, because progressivism believes in the change and in growth. So learners should enlighten and intelligence to fully live now. Ang learners dapat dito sa progressive classroom should be enlightened and it should be intelligent so that they may be able to fully live their lives now, not tomorrow, but now. So, why teach? Progressivist teacher teach to develop learners into becoming intelligent and enlightened citizens of a democratic society. Dito sa progressive classroom, teacher teach to develop learners into becoming enlightened and intelligent citizens of a democratic society. That this group of teacher teach to learners so they may live life fully now, not to prepare them for adult life. Pinaka-importante sa kanila is that you know how to live your life now. You must be enlightened and intelligent so that you become a good citizens of a society. So there are a lot of times we are so busy preparing for our future that we tend to ignore the present we always have. You know to seize today, and tomorrow is yet another story. So next, what to teach? The progressivists are identified with need-based and relevant curriculum. It means kung ano ang kailangan ng estudyante ngayon, yun ang ituturo mo. This is curriculum that responds to student needs and they relate to student personal lives and experiences. They need it now, so you teach it now. Progressivists accept the impermanence of life and inevitably of a change. Change is only thing that does not change. Hence, progressivist teachers are more concerned with teaching the learners the skill to cope with change. So instead of occupying themselves and teaching facts on beat information that are true today but become very obsolete tomorrow, they would rather focus on teaching of the skills that they need every day, especially in solving problems that they might be meeting later on, solving problems that already existing nowadays. That's why the subject that are given emphasis in progressivist schools are the natural and social sciences. So, teachers expose students to many new scientific, technological, and social development, reflecting the progressivist notion that progress and change are fundamental. Next is how to teach. Progressivist teachers employ experiential methods. One learners by doing. Dapat hindi lahat ng tinuturo mo ay galing lang sa libro. Dapat yung tinuturo din ay ina-apply ng mga estudyante, because one learners by doing. So you teach them the theory and at the same time you ask them to apply the theory learned in real life. So is more application what to learn. So book learning is no substitute for actual experience. One experiential teaching method that progressivist teachers heavily rely on is the problem-solving method. So, sabi ng mga progressives, dapat bigyan rin ng mga incentive activities that involve problem-solving method. Give them a problem that existing in society and give them an opportunity as well to think of the process of possible solution to that problem. Methods like hands-on, minds-on, hearts-on, teaching methodology such as field trips, thought-provoking games, and puzzle. So, expose students about the real issues to the real societal problems And you can only do that if you would give them field trips, if you will give them thought-provoking games or puzzle that you have to solve. Next topic will be about perennialism. It was proposed by Robert Hutchins and Mortimer Adler. Naniniwala ang mga perennialists sa mga bagay na ageless, eternal, and change. Perennialist also believes that truth is universal. Truth does not depend on circumstances of the time, place, and person. Transcendence truths and transcendence values. Kung ano ang totoo dito sa Pilipinas, yun din ang totoo sa ibang panig ng mundo. Kung anong totoo ngayong kasalukuyan, yun din ang totoo ng mga nakaraang mga panahon. Transcendence truths and transcendence values, and the perennialist would believe sa mga to that there are values which are unchanging, that there are values which eternal. So, why teach? Naniniwala ang mga perennialists na we are all rational animals. Because we are all rational animals, then school should therefore develop aside from the student rationality. Then the school should also develop the moral powers of each of the students that you have. Because according to Aristotle, if we neglect the students' reasoning skills, we deprive them of the ability to use their higher faculties to control their passion and appetites. So, I really agree by Aristotle. Kaya nga ang ulo natin nasa top, diba? Because our head, our rationality, our brain should control the heart or the feelings that desire and should control our appetite. So according to Aristotle at mga perennialists, if we fail to develop our reasoning faculty or mental faculty, then we fail to control the lower faculties that we have. So if someone has a strong will, if someone has a strong rationality, then it will be a lot easier for this person to control the emotion and at the same time to control the desire. So next is what to teach. The perennialist curriculum is a universal one on the view that all human beings possess the same initial nature. Kung ano ang totoo dito sa Santiago, gano'n din ang totoo dito sa Ramon at sa iba pang panig ng Pilipinas. Kaya nga pinag-aralan dito will be humanities or general education subject. It is heavy on the humanities on general education. There is less emphasis on vocational and technical education. So what perennialist teachers teach are also lifted from the great books kasi naniniwala sila na maraming matutunan sa mga great books sa history, sa religion, literature, or past ideas that relevant. Understand the great work of civilization. Kasi nga naniniwala ang mga perennialists that the past ideas are still irrelevant and that explain why we still study Shakespeare's sonnets. Literally peace despite the fact matagal nang naisulat noon at matagal na nang patay si Shakespeare. Kasi naniniwala ang mga perennialists na marami tayong matutunan sa mga nangyari noong nakaraan at nangyari noong nakaraan ay posible pa rin mangyari ngayon. That's why there is a need to understand the great work of civilization. Curriculum that based on recurrent themes. How to teach. The perennialist classroom are centered on teachers. The teachers do not allow the students' interests or experiences to substantially dictate what they teach. So, it is as well curriculum based, and it will base on what happened in the past that are supposed to be studied at present. So doon lang sila umiikot. They do not consider students' interests and students' experience. That is why they apply whatever creative techniques and try to methods to discipline a student's mind. So there is a need to disciplines to control students' minds so that they may be able to become better learners. So Students engage in Socratic dialogues or mutual criticisms to develop an understanding of history's most timeless concept. So, napakahalaga ang history, ang religion, ang literature, para sa mga perennialists because they believe that you could find wisdom from the past. The wisdom from the past is very essential to understand the events of the present that will eventually guide us as we predict what will happen in the future.
The next philosophy that we're going to discuss is the philosophy of existentialism, given by Jean-Paul Sartre and Soren Kierkegaard. And the defining feature of existentialism is existence precedes essence. So when we speak of existence, we mean presence. You are alive, you are here on earth. When you speak of essence, that would mean your purpose, your function, your significance, or your importance. So when Sartre said existence precedes essence, he might mean that your presence comes before your significance, so meaning you've got to allow to be alive first so that you would know your purpose. So paano mo naman malalaman ang purpose mo kung hindi ka pa naman nabubuhay sa mundo ito? The person has to experience life first. The person has to walk through a lot of paths first before he would know his real essence. That is why this philosophy is known to be the philosophy of subjectivity because it believes in the power of man to create his own life and to create his own world. According to existentialists, man is capable enough of creating his own life, creating meaning out of the life provided him, and that man is capable enough to do whatever he wants in life. Kaya kapag nagtagumpay ka, you congratulate yourself. But if you fail then, do not blame your other people of your failure. You have to blame no one except yourself because you make your life, you make your own choices, and that you live your own life. No one is in control of your life except yourself. That is why the existentialists claim that people are free to choose what to make of their lives. People are free to choose. They have their own sense rationality. They are the highest forms of animals, and so they are free to choose what they would want to do with their lives, and their individual passions are what drives them, meaning the life a person creates depends on the passions and goals that drives him. Okay, so the main concerns of the existentialist is to help students understand and appreciate themselves as unique individuals. The role of the teacher is to guide students, to help students understand themselves as well as their potentials, their skills, and the teacher have to help the students appreciate themselves as unique individuals, that they might not the same as other people because these individuals are born uniquely, born differently from the rest of the world. Another thing, the existentialists also believe that these students must be taught how to accept full responsibility of their actions, of their feelings, and of their thoughts. So no matter what happens, the teacher or the students must accept the fact that they have to be responsible for whatever it is that happens in their life. So what is then the role of the existentialist teacher? So the existentialist teachers should help students define their own essence. The teacher should guide the students to look or to find for their own essence, their own purpose of depending on their own potential. So how would a teacher do it? First, by exposing students to various paths they take in life. So you present them the life alternatives. You present them the life choices, and from those choices you let them choose. The teacher is not the one to choose for them. The students would choose for themselves, and aside from that, the teacher should also create an environment in which the students are free to choose anything according to their own preferred way. So the role of the teacher is just to set everything to guide the students, to help them find the real purpose, their potential, and their skill. Okay, so according to the existentialist, since feelings is not divorced from reason, so meaning your feeling is connected to your reason or your mind is intertwined with your heart. So dili daw pwedeng magbuwag ang kani siyang duha ka butang, which is your head and your heart. They should be work hand in hand. Yon ang mga belief sa existentialist. So because these two things, your head and your heart, are inseparable, then the existentialist should make sure that he develop the whole personality of the person. There should be a holistic growth for the person and not just, developing the mind. Okay? So the existentialists do not believe creating intellectual monsters. Your job as a teacher is to develop the heart, to develop the mind, and make sure that their growth and development is holistic. So what is to be taught in an existentialist classroom? First, students are given a wide variety of options from which to choose from. So the teacher only has to offer choices to the students, and that humanities subjects are given priority because according to the existentialist, this subject would help students unleash their potential and discover their own creativity and self-expression. So here the teacher helps students define their essence. It is not the teacher that defines the essence of the students. The teacher just help the students define their own essence. You help the students find their own purpose, their own potential, and you help unleash this potential that is very essential, that you will help develop them holistically so that they would become good decision makers. Because kapag ang isa ka tao mag-decide gamit ang iyang mind and iyang heart, then iyang decision would be the best decisions that he could ever come up with. That is why, because the existentialist classroom, the learner is the center, then that is their interest, and the need of the students must also be prioritized, and that the students are the center of everything, the center of the teaching and learning process, not the curriculum. So meaning, kung dili gusto sa students ang kaninang butang, din dili nimo siya itudlo sa ila kung dili pa sila ready. So that is why existentialists focus on the individual himself, and the learning is self-faced and self-directed. So teachers as well do not impose values in an existentialist classroom because values are too personal. You show them the values and then they will be the one to decide. Your job is only to present then the value, and then you let them to understand the importance of such value and the importance of acquiring such value. So the teachers are merely facilitators of the learning process, and the task of the teacher is to craft creative strategies like that of the differentiated task so that all potentials of the students will be tapped. For example, sa differentiated task, okay class, I will be grouping you into 3. So tanang mga maayo mo kanta, dari mo na part, then tanan maayo nga musayaw daari, and tanan maayo mo buhat og mga poems so daari. So that is differentiated task. So your task would be based on their skills and would be based on their own interests. So that's all the informations regarding about the philosophy of education, which is the existentialism.
Behaviorism. Behaviorism was proposed by John Watson and B.F. Skinner. Dito sa behaviorism, human beings are shaped by the environment. They believe that they are a product of their environment, the product of the society where she belongs. Example, ginajudge tayo based sa ating magulang. If you are not that good o pasaway, people will think if kung sino kaya mga magulang nito. because we grow up in that kind of environment and we tend to imitate and unconsciously adopt the kind of the attitude and the behavior of the people around us. Dahil malakas ang impact ng environment sa growth and development ng bata, so you have to make sure that the environment is conducive to learning. Behaviorist schools are concerned with the modification and shaping of students. It is to modify and shape students' behavior by providing a favorable environment, an environment where students could learn positively. What is to be taught in a behaviorist classroom? The important things to teach is that there should be change in the behavior, and that change should be the effects of the favorable environment that you set for your students. Good environment was mean good result. Better environment would mean better learning for the students. If you are a behaviorist teacher, then your goal is to make sure you create a classroom climate that is conducive to learning. If we say classroom climate or classroom atmosphere, we are referring to the physical climate that the teacher creates in the room. Physical climate are temperature, light, arrangement of furniture, size and quantity of visual aids. Maayos dapat ang gamit inside the room. Dapat maliwanag, may hangin, maganda ang visual aids na ginagamit ng teacher. This should be considered by the teacher because if the students are not comfortable in their own classroom, so how could you expect students to perform the best way possible in the classroom? Teachers ought to make the lesson as clear and interesting as possible to capture and hold the learner's attention. Teacher as well should make lessons interesting so you can call the attention of your students. And power of positive reinforcement, an appropriate incentive to eliminate negatives. 1. Giving rewards to the students are very essential in a classroom if the students have done something good, para they will encourage to continue doing good.
Linguistic philosophy. Linguistic itself is a scientific study of language, and we know that language is a tool of communication. So in defining linguistic philosophy is one of the philosophies of education which aims to develop the communication skills of the learner. Teacher must obtain this philosophy in order for the learners to practice or enhance their ability to communicate towards other individuals.
Why teach about linguistic philosophy? Teaching linguistic philosophy, it develops the communication skills of the learner because the ability to articulate, to voice out the meaning and values of things that one obtained from his or her experience of life and the world is the very essence of man. It is about showing or expressing your thoughts or ideas clearly and effectively, especially in exchanging conversation with others. And through it, you are able to speak your own mind freely and openly. In learning linguistic philosophy, the learners will be able to deliver or express her thoughts and ideas in a right manner and understand the message without causing a misunderstanding. What to teach? Learners should be taught to communicate clearly, how to send clear, concise messages, and how to receive and correctly understand messages sent. Communication takes place in 3 ways: the verbal, the non-verbal, the paraverbal. Verbal component refers to the content of our message, the choice and arrangement of our words. This can be oral or written. Verbal is the use of words to convey a message, a use of words to share information. Non-verbal component refers to the message we send through our body language. So it's like a transfer of information through the use of body language. So this includes eye contact, facial expression, gestures, and more. Example, when you meet someone, then you smile. So by it conveys that you are friendly. The last one is the paraverbal. The paraverbal component refers to how we say, the tone, pacing, and volume of our voices. In paraverbal, it is how a person tries to transmit his or her messages through the tone, pitch, and pacing of our voices. So it is important to consider this part of communication, especially when speaking to your audience because it helps the receivers to understand what the speakers feels. So for instance, when someone is angry, their voice tends to become louder.
Jurists need to teach learners to use language that are correct, precise, grammatical, coherent, and accurate, so that they are able to communicate clearly and precisely their thoughts, ideas, and feelings. Jurists need to caution the learners of the verbal and nonverbal barriers to communication. Learners must be mindful of how they communicate, like they must be clear enough in using verbal and nonverbal in order for the person to understand. Teach them to speak as many languages as you can. The more languages one speaks, the better he or she can communicate with the world. So as a learner and a future educator, you must broaden the knowledge of the learners by teaching them many languages. It will be a great help of them in order to understand other peoples despite being diverse. So the most effective way to teach a language and communication through experiential way. As what others says, experience is the best teacher because through experiencing, socializing, or exchanging conversation to people, it helps ourselves in enhancing our communication skills. Teachers should make the classroom a place for the interplay of minds and hearts. In order for that learners to sharpen their minds in terms of thinking, especially in sharing thoughts and ideas. Teachers facilitates dialogues among learners between him or her because in the exchange of words, there is also an exchange of ideas.
Philosophy of Pragmatism, which was advocated by John Dewey and Charles Peirce. Pragmatism actually came from a Greek word which means to do, to make, or to accomplish. Because pragmatism believes what is experienced in real life, what is useful to real life, is the reality. That is why pragmatism believes in the functionality and practicality of everything, what is functional and what is practicable. These are the things that are supposed to be learned by students in school. That is why the pragmatists would claim that thoughts must produce actions and that thoughts are useless if these thoughts are not applied. Because actions are far more important than ideas or than thoughts. And pragmatism believes really that the beliefs that we have, even the ideas that we have, are true only if they are workable, if they are practicable, or if they are profitable. Otherwise, false. That is why for pragmatism, it is very important that whatever you have learned in school, whatever ideas or theories you have understood and you have learned from your teachers, should be applied. Because if these ideas or theories are just in the head, and these are not applied in real life, then these ideas are useless. Because the most important thing that a student should look into is to apply the learnings that they have in school. What are the implications of this in education? Pragmatism advocates student-centered curriculum, meaning the students should be the center of the educative process. The student should be the one to do everything. You have to be taught how to learn for themselves. They have to be taught how to be better individuals. The teacher should only be there to let them understand things that they have to understand and to help them achieve the life that they would want to achieve. And for the students to do that according to the pragmatist, a student should be immersed. They should be working with groups, and there is a need for these learners to be working with the group members with their classmates, so that they will be learning something better. So according to the pragmatist, if a student learns from his or her classmates, if a learner listens to the ideas of his or her classmates, then it would be a lot easier for them to understand the topic. So this pragmatism stresses the application of what I've learned rather than transfer of this organized body of knowledge. That is why for pragmatists, doing is more important than knowing. I actually have met some co-students who are really very good. They could memorize a lot of theories and a lot of principles. They are academically good. I mean, they get high scores during examinations and quizzes, but when it comes to application of such theories, they're poor. Because there are individuals really who are very good. They are very rich when it comes to critical thinking, but they lack application. And for pragmatism, theories would be useless if you do not know how to apply these theories to real life. That is why curriculum should be framed according to the pragmatist on the principle of utility, of interest, and of experience. Utility. Whatever is needed should be taught, whatever is needed to live life better, whatever is needed to solve real-life problems, whatever is interesting for these students, whatever is they have to experience later on in their lives, those are what's supposed to be taught in school. Because the focus should not be on facts, should not be on theories. The focus should be topics that would help individuals solve life problems. Because according to pragmatists, these facts or theories would not help a student to solve real-life problems. That is why the subjects to be taught must help students solve practical problems like that of languages, of science, of math, agriculture, and domestic science for that matter. And for pragmatism, the main subject matter of instruction is life. Anything that has something to do with life should be taught. Anything that the learners should know or should understand about life should be taught. The most important thing for pragmatism, they understand the theories, but more importantly, they know the application of such theory to life. Because all the necessities of living life should be taught in school. Philosophy of Idealism, which was proposed by Socrates and Plato. This idealism believes that the world has two forms, the spiritual and the material. And for idealism, spiritual is far more important than the material. A person's way of thinking, of knowing, of feeling, and of acting are more important than material possessions or earthly things. Because for idealism, the prime aim of life or the main purpose of living is to achieve spiritual values. And these spiritual values are the values that do not die. These are the transcendent values because these values transcend time and space. Meaning, even though the times are different, even though everything in the world is new, these values are still here. It didn't change. And what are these transcendent values? These are the values of truth, of beauty, and of goodness. Now, according to idealism, ideas are the only true reality. It's even more important than objects and materials. So what are the implications of this in education? Since Plato believed that each individual has his or her own version of ideal self is a kind of person this learner wants to be or to become the kind of life that he desires, the life that he would want to live, and each of us, according to Plato, has this. We have our own picture of ideal self or of ideal life. And the role down of the teacher and of the school is to help this learner attain this ideal self. So in idealism, there is really a focus when it comes to self. You have to give more importance to self, to how you improve yourself, to how you attain the ideal life and ideal self that you would want to attain. That's why idealists believe that the main purpose of school and of teachers is to help each learner discover his or her full potential. The school and the teachers should help students become what he wants to become in the future. The school and the teachers should help the learner develop or unleash his or her capacity or to fully develop his or her personality. There is also a need, according to the idealists, to inculcate among the learners that they have to make sure that they are good, they live a good life, so that they may be able to serve the community a lot better. That is why the emphasis of idealism would be subjects that would teach students how to feel and how to know, how to act, how to think, like that of the philosophy, literature, religion, and history. These are subjects for the soul. These are subjects that would teach individuals a proper way of thinking, of knowing, of feeling, of acting, and of willing. And of course, there is as well very important for the idealist to develop the character of a certain learner, and the character development is done through emulation of examples or of heroes. So if you would want to be an idealist teacher, then you would teach values by means of presenting the life story of saints, or of heroes in your own place or in the world. And based on these life stories of their renowned individual, the students would extract values from that and would tend to own the values, and they will be motivated to live exactly how these heroes and saints lived their lives. So it's more on emulation. The teacher gives different individuals who are worthy to be emulated by the learners. So that is how values are being taught, or that's how character is being developed by using the principle of idealism.
And now let's talk about realism and naturalism. First is realism. It was proposed by Aristotle and Saint Thomas. Abilities of life, or what is real. Or it talks all about everything we see, or to see is to believe. Ultimate reality is the world physical object. The world is material. The world is material because it became a tool for us to gain more experiences and to fully understand what reality really is. And next is, reality is independent in human mind. Experiences is the key to understand more what is reality is. And this kasabihan, or example for it, or meaning for it. The old ones are more wiser than young ones because they gain enough experiences than us youngers. Next is the application of realism in education. Most effective way to find out about reality is to study it through organized, separate, and systematic arranged matter. And it all talks about the evidences of the study, evidences of things for us to have the enough data, no? Next is the science and mathematics. Focus subjects for the realism in education is nature, science, and vocation. And one of the example of Philippine education that realism is applied is the implementation of mother tongue based learning in kindergarten or preschool to third level of elementary. They came out an idea that for those students or to those toddlers to fully understand or experience more what school is, they must use the language that they have in home or the mother tongue because it is more flexible for them. And next is naturalism. It was proposed by J.J. Rousseau and John Locke. It denies everything that has supernatural significance or all about ghosts or supernatural entities or everything that are unbelievable or supernaturals or spirits explained or accounted all by scientific laws. Everything that are not seen are not true. Or same to realism, to see is to believe. Truth can only be found in nature or science. And in naturalism, there is no God or there is no fate. And the application of naturalism in education is it all focus in human development. Educator or teacher must know what must be given to their student in their specific age or levels. And also, naturalism in education is democratic and universal. Everyone must be educated in same manner. Equality in diversity must be implemented. And in naturalism, it emphasizes the physical development. And maybe the reason why physical education or physical activities are present in our curriculum is because of naturalism. And the school has the responsibility to develop physically developed persons or individual. And the key point and the last one for naturalism is in naturalism, if you have question, ask science because science has all the answer for naturalism. And thank you for listening and watching, and we hope all of you gain enough knowledge from our report. And once again, thank you and God bless.